Hello everyone, welcome back to another day, another adventure. I'm Dev, these are my adventures, and I'm a flight attendant for a major US domestic carrier. I'm going to be talking about my personal experience on commuting, moving to base, and transferring. So I need to start off with kind of like a little backstory. In my training, specifically for my airline, they give us a list of all the base options, and we had to put in our order where we wanted to go, and they didn't know if everything would be available or not, because for my company they take the last 4 digits of your social security, and according to the first number of your last 4, if it starts with a 9 you get the highest, if it starts with 0 you get the lowest. And for me, I was at the very end. Not everyone is gonna get their first choice. Some people got their second choice, I got my third choice, and a girl after me even got her 4th choice. Our bases for my airline are Chicago, Trenton/Philadelphia, Orlando, Florida, Denver, Colorado, and Las Vegas, Nevada. On day 1, keep these in mind, talk to your folks, see what everyone wants to do. See what you guys want to put in for. Some people think about a lot of things, about their families, they think about the cost of living, their health. Can they get another job somewhere? How are they going to live? Do they have family in other states? Everyone has a different story, therefore everyone's base options are going to be different. For me, I talked to my family, and of course I'm from Tampa, Florida, so therefore Orlando was number 1 because I'm here every weekend. I have family here. It was going to be the easiest option for me. Second of all, I thought of my health, because basically you sneeze and I get the flu, but that's just the way my immune system is. And I know it's pretty rough being in this industry with all the germs and all the bacteria and people you're exposed to, but it just comes along with the job. I thought for my health, the cold and the snow were not going to do it for me. So my second choice was Las Vegas, Nevada, and if I wanted to get another job, I could, because there's plenty of jobs on the Strip, whether it be working in a casino, working in a restaurant, whatever it is, I could probably get a second job if I wanted to. And the cost of living there is very, very cheap compared to some other places. I knew I definitely did not want to have 2 bases because I was not taking my car. So I knew Philly, Trenton was going to be last. And then it was a toss-up between Denver and Chicago. Chicago snows, Denver also snows. Chicago is 2 hours away, Denver is 4 hours away. Chicago has brutal winters. Denver sometimes is like summer. I also put into the factor that I have family in Colorado Springs, which is only an hour and a half away from Denver. Picked Denver as my 3rd choice, and then Chicago as my 4th choice. Got the results back. I did not get my first choice. I did not get my second choice, but I did get my 3rd choice. This was really hard on me. I was very scared. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't know where I was gonna live. It's nerve-wracking because you're going by yourself. What did I do? Did I move or did I commute? Well, for me, I did both. My company gives you an option. You can be a mover or you can be a commuter. And a lot of people in training don't really understand the term commuting, because you can live in Texas, you can live in Florida, you can live in New York, and you can commute to wherever you guys may be based. No one knew what commuting was. At that time, we had 24-hour reserve. You had to commute in the day before in order to go on a call at midnight. What I did was I put in to be a mover. They gave me 5 moving days, but when they scheduled me in my IOE, it wasn't for another 4 days after my 5 moving days. I bought myself a ticket on my airline to move to Denver. I packed a carry-on, I packed a tote bag, and I packed a check bag. And I packed as much as I could, and I took it on an airplane with me, and I moved across the country into what we call crash pads, but other people might see them as like hostels in other countries. It's like a shared living space. I had 2 options. I could either get a cold bed or a hot bed. Logged on to CrashPad 411, which is a website for flight attendants, pilots, mechanics, whomever it may be. On this website, you can contact a bunch of people to basically rent out a hot bed or rent out a cold bed. For me, because I was moving, I was looking for a cold bed is your bed, your sheets, your personal space. Nobody touches it except you. A hot bed is good for those who only need a few nights to sleep a couple times a month, because they commute in the day before, they sleep, they go on a trip, they commute home right after their trip, whether it be a couple hours after they land, immediately after they land, whatever it may be. Some people can commute in the day of, they go on their trip, and then they go to their crash pad, and then they go to the airport in the morning. Totally depends. Hotbed is a random bed that you can share them with whomever, and they clean the sheets and whatever before you get there. I picked a cold bed, and I found a crash pad on Facebook, which is run by 2 people, Scott and Jen. They are awesome. I love them. So if you're a baby flight attendant with my company or with any company, I will put the crash pad information in the description box below, because with my cold bed, I got a bottom bunk, I got a full bed, which is unheard of for crash pads. I got a space in the closet. It was a huge master closet, a shelf in the bathroom, a space on the shelf in the pantry, a space in the fridge. They said that I could move in for as long as I wanted, as long as I was paying my rent. I put down a deposit, just like an apartment, and then I had to bring my own sheets, my own towels, my own pillows, and whatever I needed to basically live. The only thing they were providing me with was a roof over my head, a gym, and a mattress on a bed platform. I moved to Denver and I was there for 3 months. How did I commute and live in Denver? For me, I bid my schedule to do like 5 days on, 3 days off, 5 days on, 3 days off, 4 days on, 2 days off. On purpose, there's these things called stand-ups, CDOs, whatever it may be. It's the last flight out and it's the first flight in of the day, but you go to a hotel for like 4 or 5 hours in between and take a nap. I would bid those on purpose on the second to last day of my block, because once you get in at 7 o'clock in the morning from your trip, from your stand-up, you were released. So if I bid that on the second to last day, I could commute home on the very last day of my reserve block. And I would already be at the airport. You guys are probably wondering, how'd you get to the airport? I didn't take my car. I also did not live by a train. My crash pad also did not have a car. So I had to figure it out for myself. I was doing a lot of Lyft, a lot of Uber. If I got lucky, my roommates would take me to the airport. And then closer to the end, I had very, very, very nice roommates who would pick me up, drop me off, and I would pay them in beer. Sometimes I would be lucky and my roommate would work a trip and I'd be sitting airport standby and she would take me and then she would pick me up and we would go home together. I would always Uber or Lyft to the airport no matter what if I didn't have a ride in the mornings. On the way home, what I figured out was over time, I would take a hotel shuttle from the airport to the hotel. I would just stand outside the hotel, and then as they were pulling into the parking lot, I would order a Lyft or Uber on my phone. Instead of it being like $18 to get from the airport to my crash pad because of airport fees, I would just pay like $3 or $4 to get from the hotel to my crash pad. Everyone would always be like, I've never taken anyone from a hotel to a house before, and I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, but I'm cheating the system. I'm a broke reserve. I make no money. I kind of need to get my $10 off every ride, basically. Because going to the airport would be like $15, and then going home from the airport would be like $18. It just depends. That's a lot of money to just, not go anywhere. Instead of paying $30 in a day, I was paying like sometimes $15, sometimes $18 in a day to get a ride to and from the airport. If I was doing a stand-up, get in at 7 a.m. I would register for the first flight out, and then I would fly home and my mom would come pick me up at the airport, and then I'd just go home for a few days. I would do that constantly for a few weeks, and that is my backstory on how I moved, how I got around in Denver, and how my life as a commuter was. Okay. Now let's talk about transferring. When did I get my transfer to Orlando? It was a long journey. With your social security number depends on your seniority. That's not something that you can pick. That's just something the company makes for you, so it's randomized. Every single month, you would put in for a transfer. Before July of 2019. You could transfer every single month. We all graduated January 30th, but some people had their IOEs literally February 1st. Everyone started at a different time, even though not really. We all graduated at the same time, but depending on who you were scheduled with, how their schedule was versus how crew scheduling puts it in for you, everyone started at a different time. For me, I started way later than everyone, 9 days after everyone else. So I was a week and a half behind in the game. Those who did their IOE February 1st, their paperwork got done earlier than me, and they have certain deadlines that you have to put into transfer by. So I think it's like the 12th of every month is what it was, and my paperwork was not done by the 12th, unfortunately. Some people who do it's like an 8-hour turn on February 1st. Let's look, because we graduated on a Wednesday. If they did an 8-hour turn on February 1st, which is a Friday, their paperwork probably would have been done by February 5th, which means they would have had the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, probably like 5 days after that to put in for their transfer by February 12th. Because my IOE was on February 9th, it was a Saturday, I got back on a Sunday. I didn't get my schedule until, actually, I got it February 12th, which was a Tuesday. And then I set couch on February 14th. And everyone starts at a different time. The people who started earlier than me and their paperwork was completed, they could have put in their transfer for March by February 12th. And just by the luck of the draw, the luck of the straw, I don't really know how to say it. Some of my classmates were able to get their transfer for March. They got it. They were only in Philly for a month, for 3 weeks basically. I didn't get my transfer for March because the way my schedule was built and my IOE was scheduled in February. In March, I put in for April, and I was knocked down by 1 number because some senior mama, some senior papa came in above me and pushed me down, and they only offer so many spaces. April comes around, and I put in my bid for May. And finally, by the grace of God, I got my schedule in Orlando for May. So I spent majority of February, March, and April in Denver, Colorado. How did I get back to Orlando, you may ask? I have a few days off at the beginning of May. Fly Casey out to Denver for him to enjoy downtown. And his birthday is May 1st. We saw Taking Back Sunday. We got to explore downtown Denver. We stayed in an Airbnb. It was a lot of fun. And then he helped me move back to Orlando. So I packed all my stuff up as much as I could in my check bag, my tote bag, and my carry-on. And living there for 3 months, you kind of accumulate some more stuff. I had to throw out some stuff. I left some baskets in Denver. Hopefully whoever's at the crash pad now is enjoying them. I had Casey bring me an extra suitcase because I needed it. And my lovely roommate at the time, Christian, she watched my videos before she moved into my crash pad. I don't know if she still watches them. Christian, if you're watching this, I love you. You are a saint. You are amazing. One of my favorite people that I lived with. So she offered me a ride to the airport so I could go meet Casey. I packed up everything. I met Casey at the airport. And what was awesome about how all of this worked out was, coincidentally, 2 days before Casey came to the airport, I bid on a trip that was a 22-hour Orlando layover, and then a night in St. Louis. I got the trip, so I literally packed as much as I could in my carry-on and my tote bag, and I moved most of my stuff with me while I was working. Casey came and picked it up at my hotel and he took it back to Tampa with him. That means I could have some more room to move stuff with me for my final move. He brought me an extra suitcase and he packed all of his stuff in a backpack. We flew back into Orlando. I moved into my great aunt's house for about a month. And I had my own room, I had my own bathroom. All I had to do was make her food sometimes, and she was awesome. I love her so much. She's been in a few of my vlogs, and she's just the cutest little thing ever. For about a month and a half, rent-free, and I would drive home on the weekends from Orlando to Tampa, and I was able to see Casey, and Casey came and stayed with me sometimes, and it was just great. I was able to save up and work a lot and afford this beautiful place. What is commuting like? It is a challenge. I've commuted several times from Tampa to Denver and vice versa. Me getting to Denver was the hard part. Me leaving Denver was the easy part. I always got on a United flight out of Denver, and I would always make it to Tampa on United. But getting back to Denver was the hard part. I've tried several times to make it on United. I think I only did once. I've flown Southwest a few times, but majority of the time I would get on my company, which is just the easiest to begin with. Of course, there was also winter cyclones every single week in Denver, which also made it hard when the flights were canceled in Denver, which would back people up in Tampa to get them out. That also had effect on it. There were times when I would miss my first flight, I'd miss my second flight, I'd miss my third flight, and sometimes it did take me 3 or 4 tries to get to Denver in one day. And I'd always be so nervous because the flight from Tampa to Denver is at like 9 p.m. but you don't get in until after midnight, and I would start reserve at midnight. So they could call me literally at 12, 12:01, 12:02, and if I was on the airplane, I wouldn't have service. For you guys, it just depends on what you want to do. If you want to move, a lot of people do drive their cars across the country to different bases, and they pack everything with them in their car so that way they have a car there. Some people move into apartments in their base. Some people commute like I did, and they go back and forth. They have a place in Denver or wherever their base may be, and then they have their original home. But I can't tell you guys what to do because I don't know your situation. I do think it's probably easiest if you are on reserve to just get a crash pad while you're in your new city, explore it, do what you can, go out, adventure, and make the most of it while you're there. Even though it is really hard and you might not get your transfer on your first try, your second try, or sometimes you might get it on your third or fourth try like me. I mean, I didn't have a car and I made it work. It was hard, it was expensive. I'm very glad I met the people I did. I'm very glad I went to Denver to fly. I wish I would have had a car out there, but I made it work. So for you guys who don't get your first choice or your second choice and end up with your third or fourth choice like me, it is okay. There are plenty of people who get sent places and they absolutely dread it, and then when they get there, they fall in love with it. For me, that wasn't the case. I did not care for Denver, did not care for the snow. It was very cold, it was very dry. I was sick most of the time I was out there, and I am in love with being in Orlando. There is no place else that I'd rather be. I love it here. I live right by Disney World. Even though there is lots of traffic, there's so much to do around me and I am never bored. People want to experience different cultures, and I would like to, but it's not practical with my fiance's job being in Orlando full-time. It's not fair to him. I was looking for an airline that had a base here so I could get back here, and here I am. And now that I am here, I don't want to leave, but I think it is possible that with my journey that I'm on, I'm only here for a good time, not a long time. And I do think I would be able to commute. Didn't want to commute right now. I commuted for 3 months on and off, and it's exhausting. If I were to give you guys any advice, find a crash pad where you can move in like I did, and you could still commute home when you felt like it, or on your days off, or whatever the situation may be. I can't speak for everyone. I can't tell you guys exactly what to do. You guys have to make your own decisions. But it's okay to go places where you don't want to go and where you're forced to go, because you will always end up where you want to be in the end. That's really all I have for right now. Standby life is rough. You make it on sometimes and sometimes you don't. And there's the whole commuter clause and whatnot that I don't really want to get into right now. But this is just my story. I moved to Denver. I transferred back. It's okay. I'm where I want to be now. It took 3 months to get here. But if you guys have any questions about commuting or moving or what's it like living in a crash pad specifically, I can do a whole nother video on that. So go ahead and drop your comments in the down bar below. If you are becoming an Orlando-based flight attendant and this is where you want to be, congratulations. Or if you want to be based here, Just be patient. I know it's a long process. Trust me, I understand. I did it myself. I cried so much when I was in Denver. If you guys are going to Denver, let me know if you have any questions about being in Denver. I will link my crash pad below. If you work for my airline, any airline, if you're a mechanic, if you're a pilot, if you're an FO, let me know. Want to see anything else? This is all I have for this video, so thanks for watching.